My name is Tim Walter. I'm a house healer and an alternative life coach. First of all, YouTube housekeeping, please. If you're interested in metaphysical outlook on life, what I do as a house healer is considered pretty woo-woo, although I try to look at things from a very grounded and common sense point of view. And what a lot of people don't realise is that I actually love science. I find the science, theoretical physics in particular, is very, very interesting, and it has a lot of connection actually with house healing work. So if you're into that sort of thing, click on the subscribe button, click on the grey bell icon, and then you'll get notified every time I upload a video to the channel. The other thing to do is please click on the like, thumbs up if you like what we're talking about, how things are going in the videos. Stay as long as you can in the video as well, that really helps, and also leave a comment below. That really is most useful, assuming of course that I'm well enough to continue to respond on this basis, which I'm sure I will be. And thank you to all of you who actually have found the community button and left get well messages on there. So very, very much appreciated. That was really, I was quite touched actually by that, but let's not get too soppy about it. One of the things that I wanted to touch on today, and I just cover this very briefly before we get on to the mental health aspect of this program, was that I am going to create an online training course for house healing. So if you're interested in, just as a notion, as an idea, I'm not asking for any kind of commitment whatsoever, I just want to get a rough feeling for how many of you that watch a program like this, how many of you actually might be interested in learning the process of the house healing. Particularly useful if you're a therapist of any kind, a psychotherapist, an EFT practitioner, counsellor. Learning the process of house healing, of cleansing the space, particularly with the method that I use, you'll see it elsewhere under the geopathic stress videos, can be very, very useful. It can really help a client make quite big shifts in their awareness rather than just the talking cure on its own, or even the tapping. So, on to this mental health issue. Last week's video I touched upon mental health and depression, particularly for the young. The other thing that I wanted to touch on about mental health, because this comes as part of the work that we do when we're doing house healing. Quite often we are looking at the personal energy field of the individual occupants of the house, and mental health is one of these issues. Spiritual awakening is a really interesting topic right now, because spiritual awakening can sometimes take the form of what a clinician would diagnose as a mild or less mild psychosis. This is basically because as a person opens up and realizes that actually reality, the world is not what it seems, they can become kind of unhooked from their prison of holding their perceptions in place. I call it a prison because it is fundamentally a rigid structure designed to hold. Okay? It's not an oppressive prison, it's simply a desire to maintain the balance in a set of parameters in the physical world. This is part of the process of being physical. Things are limited by their boundaries. In the spirit world, there are no such things as these boundaries, and therefore things are not held in that state. So, when one becomes aware that the world is not what it seems, then all sorts of issues can arise. One of the main things is that synchronicity becomes ever present. It can become an overwhelming tidal wave of circumstance that can really sweep somebody off their feet. This is not an intentional process, but the amount of energy that is required to shift somebody from their prison is such that it will sweep as it pushes the pendulum to one extreme. And we have to wait and allow and give the person time to readjust and resettle within the central section of their new normal. What we're saying here is that as a person is touched by spirit, their realities will shift to such an extent that they may feel unhinged. the common law, the common word for psychosis is madness. They may feel unhinged in that sense. These people need to be cared for deeply. It is not an illness, it is simply a change of framework. But in that psychotic state, they can be a danger to themselves as well as others. And psychosis is something that can creep up on somebody very, very easily, very, very quickly, and can do so without the person's awareness. Now, this is not to say that all cases of psychosis are driven by a spiritual awakening. And this is also saying that a spiritual awakening will not induce psychosis in every single person. Some cases will be due to spiritual awakening. When I was opening up all those years ago, through my contact with spirit in the house that I was living, it was done as gently as possible by the management, but nonetheless I was experiencing anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and at the same time my brother, who lived on the other side of the country, was actually going through his own torment, if you like, because he was suffering from what we might call a standard case of psychosis. Certainly it was diagnosed as a psychotic episode. I believe there was a spiritual influence within that psychotic episode, but that's another story completely. Why I'm mentioning my brother is because in his psychosis, he enabled me to see where I was in my massive change in my perceptions of reality. So I had a very clear guide, a benchmark in my life as to how mad did I think I was going compared to, bless him, poor old Steve. Now, the fact that Steve went first and went over the edge and suffered as he did, he was later diagnosed as bipolar, and that again is another story. But the fact that he did that before I was actually following through on some of my panic attacks and my experiences of the craziness of living with a spirit in my house, his experience showed me that I wasn't going mad. I wasn't crossing that line. But his experience always told me that there was a line very, very close where I was travelling. And this is the thing, is that if you haven't got something like that, a benchmark, it's very easy to cross that line, and actually you lose your footing, you do get swept away. So, what I want to say today is, this is why we keep going on about the importance of grounding. Grounding is so important. We have to, although it's very, very exciting when one starts to shift one's perception of reality, we have to remain grounded. Now, I know I've said this before, and some of you will be going, oh, that old chestnut again. But it's so important, and for people that are new to this, people that are coming to this channel because they find the NDE description by Hamish, they might want to watch some of these videos. And if you're one of those people and you're beginning to discover that actually there does appear to be more to life and death than is commonly shared, then if you are experiencing any of these symptoms or starting to feel shaky in your own world, do go to a counsellor or come to somebody like me for help. But the main thing is to really just, if you're feeling shaky in it, back off, take a few steps back, be a normal woman or man for a little while, just change your perception, go back to just being normal and forget about it all. It'll still be there when you're ready to take another step forward. The thing is that we become, when the lid is taken off, we become incredibly sensitive, just as was mentioned earlier on, that we swing, the pendulum swings right into this hypersensitivity. Not only can we experience anxiety attacks and this kind of mild psychosis as we venture near that line, but also things like, I remember when I was walking in the hallway in our old house, I could feel in my body as I entered an energy line crossing the hallway, and my body would go into it would be like unconsciously kind of like stressed instantly as it walked into that energy. And I step out and it'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine. And it was a hyper sense of awareness. So don't underestimate the amount of change that could happen to you, could be perceived by you in your world. Now I'm going to mention my book, Spirit and Earth, which I co-wrote with Adrian Incledon-Webber. And we do talk about spiritual shock in that book. So if you're interested in learning more about how to relate to the subtle energies of spirit as you open up more, and you're ready for that, then do pick up a copy of Spirit and Earth. It is available from Amazon in both the UK and the USA, and there will be links in the comment section below. Some people ask, why are so many people experiencing this sort of spiritual awakening now? And I think really it's quite obvious, to be honest. We need people. We need as many people as possible to wake up, change the way they behave, see the power and the effect that living in a different alignment of energy can have for their lives, and make those changes as appropriate. Simple as that. The benefit of it is the more that there are doing this work in goodness and to the best possible degree that they can, being aware of energy work, means that the species and the earth is on the best possible path for the future. There are times of great change ahead, and we all need to be aware of the changes in our individual lives, not necessarily on the global platform. The function, the way that the reality is constructed, is with each individual world playing its part within the whole. We can't affect the whole, we can affect the individual one-on-one, and that is the power of working with these energies on an individual basis, day by day in your own life. So one of the things, one of the reasons that I'm offering the house healing course to come, which will be as soon as I can, as I say, is because that is a massively powerful tool for affecting change one-on-one. Okay, so I hope some of that makes sense. Just help those around you, be vigilant in that sense. If you're a therapist, counsellor, EFT practitioner, and any of these healing modalities, do be aware, I know you will be aware, but do be extra vigilant at this time of those coming to you that may be undergoing that spiritual awakening. That seems to be the message for today. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, it hasn't gone quite in the route, in the direction I thought it was going to. But bless you, we'll see what comes up on Friday. I'm working on that one at the moment. And that will be the promised video about some detail of Earth energy. Take care now, see you next time. Bye-bye.